Hi, I'm Jeff, and welcome to another one of my videos where I take a look at all the new comic books coming out on either February 2nd or 3rd, 2021. And I ask myself the question, what one new comic book would I buy this week if I could buy just one book? Now, to all of you who have been watching these videos week after week, I appreciate you all so much. Thank you so much for your continued support. If you wouldn't mind going ahead and hitting that like button right now, that would be super fantastic. And if this is the first one of my videos that you're seeing, I'm so happy that you found me. And thank you so much for checking me out. I hope you like the content that you see. I invite you to subscribe if you're interested. Today we are joined with my friend, X-Men 101 in a 9.6 white pages. I have this one out here today because several weeks ago when I picked Avengers number 40 as my just one book pick of the week, I mentioned that there was some bias that I had there. Part of it was because I'm a big X-Men fan, and that storyline having to do with the Phoenix Force was of appeal to me. But I also mentioned that there was a purchase that I had made that was on its way that was also speaking to my bias for that pick. Well, it was this guy right here. I'm very happy to have this book here. I did an unboxing for it. If you haven't seen it already, I recommend you check it out. It's a fun one. I'll put a little card thing for it right up there to check it out if you haven't done so already. Now, usually when I start these videos, I start off by taking a look back at last week's pick and talking about whether or not I thought it was a worthy pick. Well, here's the problem. Similar to last week, I am still yet to pick up my books. I haven't picked up my books from the past 2 weeks yet, and it's triggering. Not only can I tell you about this book, I Breathed the Body, that I picked 2 weeks ago, that I still haven't done my post-reading talk about. I haven't read this book, Something is Killing the Children, number 14, which was last week's pick, that I am chomping at the bit to read. I need to read this book so badly. I'm gonna go to my comic book store and pick up all my books later this afternoon, if all goes well, hopefully. And I can't wait to read these things. But I didn't want to wait to put out this video, so I wanted to go ahead and make it before I'd had the chance to pick up those books and read them. So we'll be talking about both those books in next week's video. All right, moving forward with this week's video, let's start off first by taking a look at this week's cover picks. And there are 3 nominations that I have for it. The first one I want to mention is from Future State, The Flash number 2. This is a cover done by Carr Andrews, and I just like it. I just like the art style and just the subject and like the lightning at his feet and the kind of shadow flashes behind him. I just think it's a well done piece of art, and I liked it a lot, and I just wanted to show it to all of you. But this week's cover pick for the week comes from Jenny Frison. No, not this one. Although I do like this Jenny Frison cover for Luna number 1. I think it's pretty cool. I think it's pretty cool style. I think it's excellently well done, as all of Jenny Frison's work is. But no, this one is not my cover pick for the week. My cover pick of the week is this one for Future State Wonder Woman number 2. Jenny Frison is just really good. She has a style that's all her own, and I like it a lot. In fact, she's doing a signing with Trinity Comics that's coming up, and I'm thinking about submitting some stuff, but I'm also kind of like, I want to actually just meet her at a con and have her sign something and tell her how awesome she is. So I haven't quite decided if I'm going to send anything off yet for that. But she's super talented, super fantastic, and this book from Future State Wonder Woman number 2 is my cover pick for this week. All right, let's move forward now with the books that I just wanted to kind of highlight that are coming out this week. And I will tell you in advance, I am trying to make these videos go a little bit faster, so I'm going to move through these very quickly. I'm also limiting the books that I am talking about as much as possible. There's stuff I want to talk about, but if I can not talk about it, I'm not going to talk about it. As a reminder, I'm using LeagueOfComicGeeks.com as my resource on these books, and I will be listing these books from their least amount of popularity on League of Comic Geeks based off of how many people have it on their pull list using League of Comic Geeks to the highest amount of popularity based on people who have the most pulls, the highest number of pulls of people from using League of Comic Geeks. All right, let's move in to the list. First, starting with Dynamite, Our Bloody Valentine #1. This is from Dynamite Comics. It says, put yourself in the mood for love of delicious human flesh. Peter Cannon Thunderbolt has spent his entire life on a Himalayan mountain, and his best friend Taboo is convinced to help him find a special someone, which is hard enough even in ideal conditions, but in the middle of a zombie apocalypse affecting all of Dynamite's heroes, it may be impossible. Or is it? All right, well, it's February officially with this week's comic books, and so it's the Valentine's Day holiday, even though I think Valentine's Day is a bogus holiday and nobody should celebrate it. If you are going to celebrate it, this might be a good way to do it with a zombie love story. So something you might want to check out this week. The next book I want to point out to you is Sonyaversal #1. It says, this is the most important comic book ever to come out in the history of the world, starring Red Sonja, Blue Sonja, Green Sonja, Orange Sonja, Saint Sonja, Hell Sonja, and many, many, many more. An evil god punishes Sonjas across dimensions. What's the punishment? Sonjas must kill other Sonjas. The battle for Sonja's supremacy begins in the event of 2021. So this sounds ridiculous, but it also sounds like it could be ridiculous in an awesome way. If you're a Red Sonja fan, this is like a dream come true for you. And even if you're not, it seems like it could be kind of fun and ridiculous all at once. Something you might want to consider checking out. This next book is a concept that I just love. I think it's so cool. This book is called Maniac of New York #1 from Aftershock Comics. 4 years ago, a masked slasher began stalking the streets of New York City. Maniac Harry is inhuman, unkillable, and unstoppable, which is why the authorities' solution has been to ignore him and let New Yorkers adapt to a world where death can strike at any moment. When Maniac Harry starts killing his way through the subway system, trauma-haunted political aide Gina Green and disgraced NYPD detective Zelda Pettibone become determined to go rogue and destroy him. But how can they fight a monster when they can't fight City Hall? From Emmy Award-winning writer Elliot Callan and artist Andrea Moody comes the horrifying story of what happens when terror becomes the new normal. A frightening, thought-provoking, sometimes funny, always timely tale of murder, obsession, and urban living. I find this to be very interesting. You have an unstoppable murderer, and they can't stop him, so they're just going to say, okay, well, we're just going to have to live with him. What kind of environment would that create? And how are these characters that say enough is enough, how could they possibly stop someone who can't be stopped? I think this could be a very interesting read and something you might want to consider checking out this week. The next one that comes out this week that's worth mentioning is Luna #1. I mentioned it when I was talking about my cover picks. It says, when Teresa fatefully crosses paths with the family of the Sun, she believes them to be exactly what anyone else in the late 60s would expect, a hippie cult whose leader claims to have met the divine. But secret blood rituals, powerful drugs, and sex runneth amok will bring Teresa face to face with the truth about the family, herself, and the dark secret behind her dreams. Immortality, magic, and alchemy, the true power of enduring love collide in this new series for mature readers. This type of book is not one that I immediately jump to. These kind of mature, some like sexual books aren't necessarily my cup of tea, but I could see them being really good, really engaging reads, and so you might consider it for that fact. The next book I'm going to mention to you is Avengers Mech Strike #1 from Marvel Comics. It says, Earth's mightiest heroes, the Avengers, are confronted with an unstoppable new menace, one that is seemingly impervious to their every strength. But the Avengers aren't so easily beaten. And when new threats arise, powerful new tools must be brought to bear. Join the Avengers as they battle a brand new enemy and begin a deadly game of chess with a shadowy mastermind. Okay, so there is a brand new enemy, it's saying in here, so there may be a first appearance of a bad guy, something you might want to spec on. Also, I find this to be kind of ridiculous in a way, in concept. The Avengers and their individual powers aren't enough to stop this evil threat. But what is a bunch of mechanized suits that the Avengers jump into and I guess use to fight this threat. This isn't necessarily for me, but I bet you there are kids all over the world that are going to lose their mind geeking out over this. Not only is it superheroes, but it's giant robots as well. This might be the perfect thing for a kid in your life if you're trying to pick up a comic book for them, and it might be something you consider in that capacity. The next book I want to mention to you is Legend of Shang-Chi #1. It says Deadly Hands versus Deadly Blades. Someone has been stealing artifacts of WMD potential, and it's up to Shang-Chi to find this person and stop them. But is he prepared to go toe-to-toe with Lady Deathstrike? So Shang-Chi is a character that I'm not particularly interested in, but you know what? I am really interested in the MCU movie for Shang-Chi that's going to be coming out. I think that if it's done well, and the MCU has done a lot of things very, very well, that this Shang-Chi movie could be very, very good and really bring new life and new excitement to this character. I hope it does for me because, like I said, I'm not particularly interested in the character, but I am particularly interested in the movie. So hopefully the movie will teach me what I needed to know and why I should be excited about Shang-Chi. If you're already excited or if you want to learn more about this character, you might consider picking up this book this week. The next book I'm going to mention to you is Deep Beyond #1 from Image Comics. It says, in an underpopulated future Earth devastated by the dire consequences of the Millennium Bug, the survival of mankind, and maybe of the planet itself, is handled by a small number of people. Talented scientists who, despite the adverse situation and the stupid feuds that continue to divide the small number of people still alive, try to understand and study what is hidden in the depths of the abyss. Something mysterious and dangerous, which could eventually cause an even worse and more destructive catastrophe. All right, this sounds pretty cool. There's a bunch of covers for this from some really cool people. It's from Mirka Andolfo. So this book has a lot of things going for it, a lot of things that bring attention to it and make it worthy of potentially checking out. It's not high on my list of priorities. I'm not personally going to pick it up and check it out, but I could see it being good, so it might be something that you consider for yourself. The next book I'm going to mention to you is Man-Bat #1 from DC Comics. It says, for years, Kirk Langstrom has struggled with the monstrous alter ego Man-Bat and the serum that transformed him, but he's finally hit rock bottom following a devastating setback, and he's going to take it out. He's going to take out his anger on every single citizen of Gotham City. Will the combined might of Batman and the GCPD be enough to stop Langstrom once and for all, or will this just be the start of Man-Bat's devastation? This is a limited series that's of 6. Man-Bat's not necessarily like the most exciting Bat villain as far as I'm concerned, but I can see him being pretty cool, and I think some people are into him. If you're into him, you might consider checking this out. But frankly, I'm just glad that it's not a Future State tie-in. So for that reason alone, I wanted to bring it to your attention. Speaking of tie-ins, let's talk about King in Black, Black Knight #1. Now listen to this. Null's ferocious assault upon Earth has begun, and Dane Whitman, Avenger, hero, and wielder of the mighty Ebony Blade, pay attention to that, as the Black Knight, takes up sword and shield to defend against the unstoppable onslaught. Though the blade grants Dane incredible power, so too does it consume him with a lust for violence and destruction. As the endless horde of symbiote dragons darken the skies of Shanghai, will the Black Knight overcome the growing evil within himself and join Arrow and Swordmaster in saving the city? And what secrets will the battle against Null reveal about Dane's past? Okay, so I have been reading Symbiote Spider-Man, and one thing that's come out of Symbiote Spider-Man is that the evil shadow figures in that story have I don't like to do spoilers, but I'm going to say this. They have stolen the Ebony Blade from the Black Knight. He gets it back, obviously, because this happens in Symbiote Spider-Man. It's what's happened in the past. The point is that the Ebony Blade is dangerous to Null. And so it's very possible that the Black Knight, as wielder of the Ebony Blade, has great potential to be important in the end game when it comes to fighting Null. So this book might be something that might be worth paying attention to, because of the importance of the Ebony Blade. So if you're following the Black Knight series, pay special attention to this book and what might come out of it. The next book I want to mention to you today is Far Sector number 10. I mention it because I'm a big fan of it. You know, if you've been watching these videos, that I'm a big fan of it. I think it's really good. I really like this Green Lantern. I like the story. I like the action, the writing, the art, everything about it. I think it's being slept on. I'm surprised that more people aren't reading it. The people who are reading it, I think, really like it. This is issue number 10 of 12. If you're not already on board, you're not going to get on board now. But if you are on board, guess what? Issue number 10 comes out. Get excited. The next book, the next thing I want to do actually is I want to go through a list. There's a lot of books coming out this week that have a issue number 2 coming out. I'm going to list through them really, really quickly so that you know if you picked up issue number 1, so that you know that issue number 2 is coming out this week. There is King in Black Return of the Valkyries number 2. There is Future State The Flash number 2. There is King in Black Gwenom vs. Carnage number 2. There is Future State Superman of Metropolis number 2. There is Future State Harley Quinn number 2. There is Future State Swamp Thing number 2. There is Future State Wonder Woman number 2. And then there's also Star Wars The High Republic number 2. I hope you all have pre-ordered your issues of High Republic. Remember, it is a limited series. You got to keep an eye out, man, for this book because, as you all know, issue number 1 did really, really, really well. And irony, not irony actually, but what's interesting to me is that the second print of issue number 1 came out this past week and was immediately selling for the same amount on the secondary market, around $20, as the first print is. That is crazy to me. I do not understand, still to this point, why second prints and later prints are holding so much value in the market right now. Everybody tells me it's because of print run, and I'm like, yes, but they're later prints. They should have print runs. They're not the first appearance of anything. The first issue was the first appearance of something. The second print is a reprint. It is not the first appearance of anything. It should not have the same amount of value. But anyways, that's my rant aside. My point is that this is a hot book. This is a popular book. And issue number 2 of The High Republic comes out this week. Another Star Wars book that comes out this week is Star Wars number 11. Now, I've been reading this series because I like it a lot. Not only has it been a really good read, but it takes place in an era of the Star Wars universe after Empire Strikes Back, before Return of the Jedi, that I just find a very ripe and exciting time to know what happened during that period. And so far, it's been really good. And with the heat that Star Wars is currently generating, keep an eye out for any and all first appearances. And this is in a relevant time frame for where first appearances could have impact and potentially increase the value of a book on the secondary market. So not only is there spec potential in all Star Wars titles right now, but once again, I especially like Star Wars and the story that they're telling. I recommend checking it out. The next book I want to talk about is, I just wanted to mention that Future State The Next Batman number 3 comes out this week. Now, I will admit, as I've kind of mentioned at the beginning of this video, I am behind on reading my comic books. I have not read any Future State books at all, but the one I am most interested in is Future State The Next Batman. So issue number 3 comes out this week. Do me a favor, if any of you are reading Future State books, if you have one that you like, one that you think is the best, especially if you're reading multiple ones. If there's one that you're like, I really liked this Future State book, I'd like to hear it, because in general, I've been down on Future State, and I'd like to hear from one of you down in the comments, or all of you down in the comments, any of you that are reading these books. If there's one that you liked, like really liked, let me know down in the comments, because I would like everybody to know that, and especially I would like to know it. To kind of focus on maybe what I should read first, or what I should check out, or what I might give a second chance. The next book I'm going to mention is, as I mentioned at the beginning of this video when I was talking about X-Men 101 over here, is Avengers, but this time it's the Avengers number 42. This is the continuation of the Enter the Phoenix storyline with the whole Phoenix tournament going on, which I think is pretty cool. As long as they are sticking with this storyline, I'll be mentioning when these new issues come out. And this week, part 3 with Avengers number 42 comes out. If you're following this story, something you might want to check out. Next, I'm going to mention a book that's, I mention almost every week, but I'm not reading. It's The Immortal Hulk, number 43 from Al Ewing. Like I said, I'm not reading it, but I keep mentioning it because all I've ever heard is about how good it is. And especially since it's coming to an end. It's ending with issue number 50. So there's only 8 more issues. So it'll be interesting to see what happens in those 8 issues to bring this particular story to an end. It might be something that you consider checking out. If I wasn't reading so many comic books, I would probably start collecting this now through to the end, because I bet you the story is going to get pretty cool and pretty exciting as they get to the end of their run. So since I've heard such good things about it, and because it's a low commitment at this point, if you want to catch up from now to the end, it might be something that you might consider checking out. All right, next we're going to talk about this book was had the most polls on LeagueOfComicGeeks.com, indicating that it is the most popular, most sought after book for this week. And that book is Venom number 33. Now, there's been a lot of heat on Venom, and there is more to come. Donny Cates announced about a week and a half ago that his and Ryan Stegman's run on Venom is ending forever with Venom issue 200. Now that's Legacy issue 200. In this Venom run, it's going to be issue number 35. So we have 33, 34, 35, and then Cates and Stegman are done. So they've been with this book since, issue number 1 of this run. I expect big things to be happening in this book between now and then. Big things have already been happening, and I don't want to give any spoilers away, but I hope you've been reading this book and King in Black, because then you're fully aware of what's been happening relevant to the Venom storyline. In fact, I just made another unboxing video that has to do with a book that I picked up because of its spec potential with what's going on with Venom right now. I'll put the card for that right up there. It might be something you want to check out. I'll have more information in that video about what I see happening over the next 3 issues, at least in part, in this Venom run. But definitely, I would pick these up. I would pick up these next 3 books. I would check them out if I were you. And then just give up on Venom if you choose. But pick up these next 3. All right, so the next 2 books were my 2 contenders for my just one book pick of the week. They weren't the highest, most popular books on League of Comic Geeks, but they were both pretty high. This first one more than the second one, which is part of the reason why the second one is my pick. The first one that I looked at that I considered very seriously for making my pick for this week is Star Wars The High Republic Adventures number 1. Here's the description. Flaming destruction is coming to Triment 4. A remnant of the hyperspace disaster appears in the sky, and Zine and her best friend Crix have only minutes to get to the Elders of the Path and find safety. Meanwhile, Master Yoda Master Barrow and a group of Padawans are racing toward the disaster for a daring rescue mission. Okay, so as we talked about earlier in this video, and we talked a few weeks ago, Star Wars The High Republic was a big success. Now this is The High Republic Adventures. These Star Wars Adventures books are geared more toward readers of a younger age. But that doesn't mean it's not for old guys like me. So I'm looking forward to reading. I liked the read of The High Republic, and so I'm looking forward to more reading of Star Wars stuff from this era. I think one of the coolest things, if not the coolest thing about Star Wars, is the space, wizards, the Jedi. And I think that now that we're telling stories about the High Republic, a time when there are many, 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 many Jedi all over the place, I think that these are stories that I am absolutely interested in reading. Also, once again, spec potential, guys. There are just as much opportunities for first appearances in these adventures books as there are in the main The High Republic title. So from a spec capacity, you're definitely not wanting to sleep on any Star Wars books at all, but especially these High Republic books. I think that there's a lot of potential there for spec and secondary market gains down the line. But definitely, like I said, I'm going to pick it up for the read, but I'm also going to pick it up for its spec potential. But there's one main reason why it wasn't my pick for this week. And I'm going to get into it as I discuss the book that was my pick this week. And that book that is my pick for this week, the book that I would buy, if I could buy just one book, is Fear Case #1 from Dark Horse Comics. Now here's the description. A new horrific detective series by Matt Kindt and Tyler Jenkins. A no-nonsense Secret Service agent and his New Age partner investigate a mysterious box known as the Fear Case, which has appeared throughout history at sites of disaster and tragedy. Whoever comes into possession of this case must pass it on within 3 days or face deadly consequences. The agents must track down this Fear Case while staying one step ahead of a psychotic cult of the otherworldly forces behind the case's existence. Okay, so that sounds like a pretty cool, horrific detective series premise. I am intrigued and interested in this book based just on the description. But let's get into some things. It's also by writer Matt Kindt. Now, Matt Kindt is a famous writer. He has a book that's the FOC for it is coming on Monday. If you haven't already pre-ordered with your LCS, make sure you do this. But he is a co-writer with Keanu Reeves on Berserker. Now, just because of that doesn't make this book valuable. But what I mean to say is that Keanu Reeves met with some of the best writers in the comic book industry and landed on working with Matt Kindt handpicked him for his book. So that kind of speaks to me a little bit about Matt Kindt being a good writer, even though I am not personally familiar with his writing. But it sounds like it's a good story. It sounds like it's going to be written by a really good writer. But one thing to pay attention to is that this book had its FOC date, came and went, and then the FOC for the second print was a week later. Now that doesn't happen very often. Usually FOC for a second print typically happens around the week when the first one comes out. They kind of see how did it sell on the distributor level. This book sold out on the distributor level immediately. But even though that's true, I think it's kind of underprinted. I think that it's kind of flown under the radar for a lot of people. And people didn't start paying attention to it until the news came out that it went to a second print so quickly. So I think what's going to happen is that people are going to scoop up this book so fast. and the demand is going to greatly outpace the supply, and that is going to shoot up the value of this book. In addition, the A cover, I'll go back to it here at least for a second, is solidly black. And as many of you already know, solidly black covers have a hard time getting a high grade if you ever get them graded with a CGC or a CBCS, because any flaw, man, is just 100% detectable. You're not going to pull anything over on CGC or CBCS when you have an all black cover like this. So if for some reason this you go to your LCS and there's any of these on the shelf, even if you're not particularly interested in the book, I might suggest that if you see one that's in really good condition, you consider picking it up just on its condition spec alone, because I think a lot of these are going to see damage. So not only, once again, because it sounds like it's a cool concept, it sounds like it's being written by somebody who is a good writer, it's under-ordered and underappreciated. In the first print form, and also it could end up having condition issues. And I will add, even though this is true of a lot of books these days, it does sound like it could have potential as kind of like a movie or a television series. I know that that's kind of like, I don't know, cliche almost to say at this point, because so many books are kind of geared that way, but I think that's true of this one. As much, if not more, than most books that you might say that about. So for all of those reasons, that is why Fear Case #1 is my pick this week to buy, if I could buy, just one book. All right, well, here's where I invite you in the comments to let me know, I can't believe you didn't choose the High Republic Adventures and you chose this rando indie comic from Dark Horse. Feel free to criticize me down in the comments, or tell me like, Jeff, that's genius, I didn't know about that book. I will absolutely keep my eye out for that book if I see it and scoop it up in a heartbeat if I find it on the shelf. Let me know that as well. I tend to respond to every single one of the comments that are left for me, because I really do appreciate you taking the time, and so I take the time to respond. So let me know what you think down in the comments, and we will chat it up. Also, if you haven't already done this, at the top of the video, here's your last chance, or close to last chance, to go ahead and hit that like button. I would appreciate that. Like I've said before, it's very encouraging, and it really kind of gives me the strength to continue. So thank you for all of you that have already done that for this video. As well, if this is the first one of my videos that you have watched and you made it all the way to the end and you like the content, thank you so much for watching. I appreciate it. I might consider asking you, inviting you to go ahead and hit the subscribe guy right there, and make sure to hit the notification bell so you're informed when I post new videos. As always, thank you so much for watching this video. I'll see you in the next one.